Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs Tailgate. Aggies and Razorbacks getting ready to come from you from a rainy, soggy Fayetteville, Arkansas. Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium up there in the Ozarks. If you're joining us on texags.com/live or on the TexAgs YouTube page, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Ryan Brauninger, filling in for Richard Zane, the typical host of this program. So you get B team with me when I'm sitting in this chair hosting for David on TexAgs Live, and you get B team with me now that I'm sitting in for Richard on this TexAgs Tailgate. Shout out to Duck Camp, the presenting sponsor of this program. Whether you're gearing up for a hunt, a fishing trip, or just trying to survive September and October in College Station, Duck Camp has you covered. Check it all out at duckcamp.com. Built for the outdoors, designed for everything else. If you are in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and you've got us tuned in, you could probably use some of Duck Camp's lightweight gear that does well against the rain. You're going to be outdoors battling the elements. Go over and check out our friends at Duck Camp. They got something to get you covered. As I welcome in Mr. Nick Savage, who's going to help me through this following 30 minutes producing the show. Nick, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, OB's been sending me pictures and whatnot, or videos. He sent me a few videos of the rain falling. And he's actually calling me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take that, and you take it from there, Bronny.
Okay. Well, as we get OB lined up here to join us on the show, get his thoughts about the weather that he's seen. We started to get some text messages and calls. I guess it was probably about 9 o'clock this morning, indicating that there was going to be meetings had between the SEC officials and then both representatives from both Texas A&M and Arkansas about moving this game back. I know that A&M had altered their schedule, their team schedule throughout the morning in anticipation of this getting moved back, kickoff time getting moved back. So now we're looking at a 4:30 p.m. kick has been officially announced in case you are just late getting home or you've not been able to be by your phone this morning due to that weather rolling through Northwest Arkansas. Kickoff between the Aggies and Razorbacks has been pushed back to 4:30 p.m. Talking to some folks that got boots on the ground in Fayetteville, that might be a little ambitious. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, just what I was saying there, OB, or Bronny. I saw videos from OB, and it's pouring there. As of 10 minutes ago, it's still pouring.
Yeah, and so we'll see how that will affect play. It's a huge talking point if the showers linger around. I think if this front blows through and we get some clear skies on the other side of this front, I think it'll be okay, because now with the drainage systems at these SEC stadiums, I don't anticipate water being too big of an issue as long as it's not falling from the sky. But it is a massive talking point for this game. We've talked about it, or I know TexAgs Live talked about the potential for weather yesterday during the final countdown, and then Lucci spoke about it. We talked a lot about it on the B team on Thursday, and just the potential impact it's going to have, not only on Texas A&M, but also on Arkansas. I think, when you have maroon tinted blood, like a lot of us do that are, if you're tuning into the show, you most certainly do. You typically look at it through, I think, a glass half empty, like how could this affect my team first? And you really don't examine the other team. So there's a lot of Aggies probably worried about, without Le'Veon Moss, how do they get the tough yards if the ball's wet and it's going to be limited in the passing game? What does that look like in terms of the running back rotation with Reuben Owens and Jamarian Morrow and E.J. Smith, who I think is probably going to get a little bit more of carries? He looked so good being so decisive last week at the end of the game against Florida. What was that? Was that kind of what EJ Smith is now, or was that EJ Smith amped up to try to score late and put the dagger into his dad's alma mater in Florida? As we welcome in, we have Olin.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, OB. We welcome in. Looks like a wet.
Is that Boney driver behind me?
Well, maybe go sit in the cart with him, OB, and tell him to be quiet.
Well, yeah, that's not possible. I'm not going to bore you with all the logistics, but he's about a mile away from me right now. And I don't know if you just saw the flash of lightning. There's a torrential downpour.
Well, you look like you're a little soggy there wherever they've got you stationed. At least you're over or in a covered area.
Yeah, I was fortunate, but the sports information director won't open the press box. He let Andrew Monaco and all the radio folks go in and the TV crews, but I guess they figure guys like just mere writers and videographers, that's okay if they get drenched.
Hey, we're okay with calling Andrew Monaco a privileged class, but what we're not okay with is that Olin Buchanan's not included in that privileged class of folks. Well, OB, we appreciate you hanging tough for us and joining us today. And just your thoughts. Well, I kind of was opening the show here talking about the weather and the potential impacts it may have. Do you think does this line of storms lingering around kind of alter your view and prediction on the game?
You just never know. I've heard some analysts and former players say that an offensive team actually has an advantage on a wet field because they know where they're going. And, a defensive player is reacting to them and they're more likely to slip. I don't know if that's true. I don't know how well Marcel Reed.
Well, Olin's in a tough spot. He's in a shed. Can you hear us, OB?
I am. I can hear you all. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of going in and out. It's just because you're in a tough spot. We appreciate you fighting through it. But continue your thoughts about Marcel in the rain. That's kind of where you cut out.
Yeah, I don't know how well he throws a deep, wet ball. I don't know how well Taylor Green throws a wet ball. I would kind of suspect that a team that can, run with power and dominate the line of scrimmage, or whoever can win the line of scrimmage, probably has a better chance to win on a wet field.
Well, if that's the case, then you like the Aggies the way they've played on both lines of scrimmage. Does the weather alter the players that you're watching today? I sit here and I was actually driving back from Southeast Texas early this morning and listening to yesterday's version of TexAgs Live, and Lucci and the McKinneys Steve McKinney were talking about maybe Mario Craver having a big day. Does this weather change your impact players for the Aggies?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the first thing you do, I think, would look at Ruben Owen again, and maybe even Marcel. Again, the guy's running the ball, but that said, I don't know how well this field drains. If it's just a little wet, not too slippery, it may actually benefit those guys. If that theory that the offensive players have an edge because they know where they're going, but like a guy like Casey said, so shifty. How is that going to be compromised on a wet field? I don't know if I don't know if Mario would be compromised as much and speed, right? I mean, I know he can make moves, but his strength is just straight line speed. He's faster than the guy on the wet field trying to keep up with him. But KC likes to make quick cuts and things like that. So if you're thinking KC might have a big game, you might be concerned about that.
Yeah, and then on the defensive side of the football for A&M, regardless of the weather, containing Taylor Green in this Arkansas running game is going to be massively important for the Aggies. Do you have somebody, maybe a couple of players circled on the defensive side that you think need to play well today for Texas A&M to get out of the hills of Arkansas with a win?
Yeah, well, again, if it's if the wet field is an issue, then of course Torian York, he did a great job spying Blake Shapen and Jackson Arnold, and you got to spy Taylor Green. He did a great job with that. And then guys just to plug up that running game for Arkansas. Damian Sanford, maybe Albert Regis when they try to run inside. I will say this. I mean, if those really are the keys, like you mentioned, you should feel pretty good about A&M because I think those guys are going to play well no matter what the circumstances are.
OB, how much have you been able to get around the stadium? I know you've kind of been sheltered indoors, but just reading through the message board, reading through some of the stuff on social media, it seems like a lot of Aggies made the trip. Have you seen a lot of maroon? And how do you think the Arkansas fans are going to deal with a 2-4 record and then this weather? Could we see a scenario where there's an A&M takeover inside the stadium there?
I don't think so. I've seen a lot of Arkansas fans here, as you would expect, before the torrential rain came. I saw some Aggies, and I think the Aggies are going to be well represented. But I do think this is a season saver for Arkansas. And, Arkansas folks, they always have a place. They don't like the Texas guys, no matter which university they're from. So, and having lost, 12 out of 13 or 13, I think it's 12 out of 13 to A&M. I think this would be the kind of game that if they could get that win, it's Bobby Petrino's first home game as head coach again. So I think, it's going to be what you'd expect a road game to be like, just a lot soggier.
And OB, given all that you just said, is this a game where you're worried about style points, or is this a get in, whatever it takes by hook or by crook, win the game, get back, and start preparing for a road stretch? It'd be a good way to kick off this road stretch. 33 days without a game inside Kyle Field. This is a big one when you start projecting the rest of the season. So do style points matter for you today?
No, just win. Anytime you have this kind of weather involved, just if you can get in and get out and win. And look, we said it before. I know you said it before. We've seen really bad Arkansas teams under Chad Morris that lost to North Texas and Western Kentucky give A&M a really hard time up in Dallas. Well, now it's on their home field. And I guess it's possible A&M can come in and dominate the game, but just historically, you got to feel like we're going to see whatever the best version of Arkansas is because the game means so much to them.
Okay, OB, well, we appreciate you joining us. Get as dry as you possibly can and stay that way. Look, I can see they got stuff on wheels going behind you. Maybe turn around, grab a snack. They got meals on wheels going behind you. Or maybe hop in that Zamboni, see if you can get you a ride in the stadium.
And I'm just going to backstroke up to the press box.
Please don't put your Speedo on. I don't think anybody wants to see that. Thank you, OB. Well, we fought through it there, Nick, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm glad we got to make it work. And man, every time we cut to him, I was looking behind him to see, the weather, and it never got any better. It was pouring the entire time. So thankfully we got to make that work, because earlier this afternoon with the whole press box situation, it was sounding like we wouldn't even be able to get OB.
Well, and he was surprisingly in a better mood than I anticipated. Given that, you never want to read tone of voice into text messages, but sure seemed like he was a little bit perturbed about the situation up there not being able to get into
He was not happy.
And when OB gets that way, there's no telling how that's going to come out whenever you put a camera in front of his face and give him a microphone. So we appreciate OB joining us, fighting through the elements there. And there legitimately was some sort of Zamboni-looking machine driving around behind him.
I know. I thought that was a joke, and then I saw that. I was like, dude, that's nuts.
Well, he gave you some players to watch on both sides of the ball for Texas A&M. Don't forget, if you want to put a little stake in the game, put your money where your mouth is, you can go to Prize Picks. It is the best site to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/TexAgs. That's prizepicks.com/TexAgs and use the code TexAgs when you sign up to receive a guaranteed $50 when you play your first $5. All you got to do is check more than or less than on a lot of these totals. And based off how everything's looking right now, I think less than is a good play for any of the numbers in the Texas A&M and South Carolina game today. Some folks in the YouTube chat making note that this weather has been on the docket all week, so the Aggies should have prepared. Yes, you're exactly right. Everything that we've heard of, Mike Elko even said in his, I think, weekly press teleconference that they were practicing with wet footballs throughout the week here in College Station, a place in the Brazos Valley where we have not seen rain in probably 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, Ashton Bethel Roman came in for his, interview with Texas Aggies United on the huddle, and he said that they were spraying the footballs down and they were catching wet footballs. So they definitely, have been preparing for it.
Yeah, and I think it's just the nature of this series going back to A&M coming into the SEC. And outside of the first 2 seasons, which interestingly enough, the first 2 games of this series where Texas A&M pulled away and beat Arkansas handily. Do you remember anything about those game days?
Well, I didn't until I heard Ryan Swope in here on Thursday, and he mentioned both those games were rainy games. So, advantage A&M, I guess.
Well, we'll see if history repeats itself.
Yeah.
But also the last time that Bobby Petrino was on the opposing sideline as a head coach in Fayetteville for the Razorbacks, they had a lot of success against the Aggies in the late 2000s, early 2010s in that Southwest Classic game in Arlington. This is one of the years where I think I was happy to see it go back to a home and home, but now given the weather and the conditions up there in Arkansas, I would have liked to have this one indoors and everybody's comfy and cozy, and you're going to get a true outcome, or as true of an outcome as you can, given that we're playing a sporting event with 18 to 22-year-olds, but as straight up as you possibly can, and not outside factors playing a role in potentially the outcome. I'm a little bit distracted here as we get to the end of the half. I got South Carolina and Oklahoma up here. We're going to go around the SEC. We're going to go around the country here in just a second. But before we get to some of the other scores that have been rolling in this morning, I want to go back to the point that I was trying to make, was that I think a lot of Aggies are watching this with bated breath or maybe some hearts and throats going into the game because of the series and just the nature of these games. And regardless if A&M's been good, if A&M's been bad, it doesn't matter. On the other side, when it's Arkansas, they could be a 2-10 team, a 6-6 team. It hasn't mattered. These games have been close with the exception of the 2 years with Johnny Manziel at quarterback and then one of the Trevor Knight years when A&M also had climbed into the top 5. And there's so many – I think as we've gone through this season, there's a lot of checkpoints where people are looking for reasons of why this year is different than it's been in the past. What makes this A&M team not these A&M teams that we've seen fade down the stretch? We're wanting to put checks in the boxes, right? Well, the last time A&M climbed into the top 5, they went on the road as a favorite to Mississippi State.
Yep.
And that was the first edition of the playoff rankings.
It was the first ever playoff ranking.
And Texas A&M was ranked number 4 in the first ever playoff rankings, and they go to Starkville. Trevor Knight gets hurt early in that game, and Mississippi State just kind of overwhelmed A&M. And even the Aggies still had chances late in the game, had a huge punt return by Christian Kirk to keep them in it, but they were never able to climb over, get out of the hole they dug themselves with Jake Hubenak at quarterback. And so there's again, these are all these memories that come up in A&M fans' heads is like, all right, like I don't want to get too excited because this has happened in the past. You know, we saw it happen last year, and you go on the road and you lose to South Carolina, and you go on the road and you lose to Auburn. Mike Elko has slowly but surely been kind of carving out all of these worries for A&M.
Yeah, that's
fans.
what I was about to say. That would be my response to that is if you look at this year, I mean, they've been breaking a lot of the trends or the curses, quote unquote, that we like to bring up. So, I mean, again, you go on the road to Notre Dame, you slay that dragon, and you could help me think of some of the others, but that's obviously the biggest one that they've accomplished this year.
Well, and I think too, it's just whenever you get in these tight games late against Auburn and the defense steps up and makes the stop, whereas maybe in years past, Auburn goes down the field, even when you'd outplayed them by such a wide margin. I mean, that scoreline completely flattered Auburn in the end, but they got the ball with less than 2 minutes and a chance to go tie or win the game. And I think they got 1 first down, and then that was it. Then you look at how they kind of sputtered offensively against Mississippi State. They ended up pulling away, win that one by 22. Offense comes out red hot against Florida. Defense is on their heels. Everybody kind of settles. The Aggies double up Florida by 17 points. Now, here's one thing that we'll be looking for today is over this home stretch, the Aggie defense has really woken up.
Yep.
And I didn't think that they played super poorly in South Bend. You got to think the final score is 41-40, but they got a block punt that returned for a touchdown. That's 7 of those. So there's 33 for the defense. And then they had some key moments where they stepped up and made stops and forced field goals in important times. So it wasn't clean. It wasn't pretty. I also believe that that was the best offense that Texas A&M has played up until today. And I even would probably lean a little bit more toward Notre Dame because of their roster talent.
Yeah.
Greater
100%.
than Arkansas. But will this defense that has been so good inside Kyle Field, will it travel? Will it go on the road? And if it will, if defense travels like everybody likes to say, and if culture travels like everybody likes to say, then Texas A&M's got a great shot at when they play South Carolina at home in Kyle Field in like 3 or 4 weeks. They may do it with just one loss next to their name.
Yep.
And if they do that, you're in a great spot. If you come home off this 3-game road trip with a 2-1 record, coming back to Kyle Field, you're in a great spot to accomplish everything you wanted to with this season. Even your highest of goals are still attainable. But I think in order for them to do that, this defense, which has been lights out in front of the 12th man, is going to have to travel.
Absolutely. And something else that, I've mentioned before, and a friend of the program, Josh Pate, has mentioned, we've seen the Aggies win multiple different types of games, right? You mentioned the Notre Dame game, shootout, Auburn game, defensive, they stepped up and won that game. Florida was just, I feel like a pretty complete game outside of that first quarter. They put it together. So can they go on the road now in the SEC and win maybe, who knows what the weather's going to do to the game? I don't think anyone really has an idea, but just can they check off that box as well, win another type of game and add that to their resume?
Well, when you're looking at players on both sides here, where are Arkansas's margins to be had? Well, number one, it's at quarterback and Taylor Green. If they hold on to the football against Memphis and they hold on to the football against Ole Miss, they might be 4-2 and coming in here in this real live dog. I think they're already a live dog today, but a real live dog, and Taylor Green still hanging around Heisman discussions because that's how good he's been. So if you're making a list of the 10 best players in this game, Taylor Green, especially without Le'Veon Moss playing, Taylor Green might be 1, and then you might have 8 Aggies right after that.
Yeah.
But Taylor Green is still like that game-changing, game-winning presence. And, oh, by the way, we talked about this, I think, more and more, but it could be an issue again today, given the conditions, the special teams. Arkansas's got a really good kicker. Randy Bond has struggled. I hope, Billy talked about it on TexAgs Live yesterday. When you get opportunities to get in the end zone, you got to get in the end zone here.
Yep. And up till, I guess last week, A&M was really good when they got in the red zone of getting touchdowns, but that kind of petered out last week. So hopefully they can get back on that trend.
Well, and so the margins for Arkansas are made by Taylor Green and his ability to create and extend plays. And then they've been so good on third down because Bobby Petrino and his rush offense that he designed and flourished under Lamar Jackson at Louisville, he's taken some bits and pieces of it now with Taylor Green, and it puts them in advantageous spots in third down. That's why they're the best third down team in the SEC. On the flip side, the Aggies are the best third down defense in the SEC. Something's got to give there, right? I think the margins for A&M are on the line of scrimmage. That's where I think they're at. I think the Aggies are clearly the better offensive line in this game, and they're the better defensive line in this game.
Absolutely.
So there should be some pride taken amongst the big uglies, the Maroon Goons, and then the front seven on defense that they are going to go out in sloppy, grimy conditions, and we're going to go eat it up. We are going to embrace this, and we're going to win the game on the line of scrimmage. So that's where I think A&M can have some margins. And if you're looking for a way that A&M can win this by multiple scores, I think it's if that ground game starts to churn out 8, 9, 10, and you limit Taylor Green's opportunities. He is prone, I think, especially in pressure situations. He and the Arkansas offense are prone to give the ball away.
Yeah,
and so
got to take advantage of that.
Yes, the Aggies have got to feast on that. So a lot to look forward to in this one. Again, 4:30 kickoff. upcoming after the weather delay. So let's go around the league, Nick. Let's look at some of these scores. I've got the ESPN feed here pulled up on my phone. Looks like LSU just scored and got a 2-point conversion. Vanderbilt,
I'm updating that score on the graphic right now.
Vanderbilt is up 24-21 now. Oklahoma and South Carolina just went to half. Oklahoma up 14-7, and really it looked like it was about to be a rout for the Sooners. A lot of boo birds coming out in Columbia, South Carolina, because it is literally a one-man band for the Gamecocks on offense with Lenore Sellers. He's got to play hero ball every snap. Their offensive line is not good enough for him to be able to consecutively do that and be successful. Oklahoma was getting middle pressure, like down after down, and there was just nowhere for Sellers to go. And they got up off the mat thanks to some really, I thought, poor play calling from Oklahoma. John Mateer nearly threw a pick six late in the second quarter. So they go out, and that was on a third down. Punt team comes out. They go roll punt, and the kid completely mishits it. South Carolina starts the drive in plus territory after like a 12, 13-yard punt. And so they were able to get in the end zone on a 4th and goal and cut that lead in half, 14-7, as they entered the locker room. Elsewhere around the country, the rest of the SEC games, I believe, don't start until later today. Connor Wigman playing well right now for Houston. They're up 28-14 on Arizona. That's a pretty important game there for the Cougs. TCU and Baylor, the Horned Frogs are up by 10 in the about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. They're playing in a torrential downpour in Dallas-Fort Worth. I think that line of thunderstorms that's moving across the country is currently impacting the DFW Metroplex. There was one more game that I was watching and I wanted to talk about. Oh, Michigan and Washington, 7-7 at the end of the third quarter. Michigan is a bad offense. They've got talented players, but they're a bad offense right now.
Did you mention Georgia Tech?
Georgia
King. Oh, they just tied the game.
Yeah, Georgia Tech and Duke was the other one. That's the one that was in my quad box. Georgia Tech and Duke tied at 10. They are also late in the third quarter. If you have missed that one, it's 10-10. But there has been some wildly entertaining plays. And Duke, you want to talk about leaving meat on the bone. Duke has been pretty putrid in the scoring area. They should have way more than 10 points. They got down inside the 5, try to an inside run. The ball squirts free on the handoff. Georgia Tech picks it up, races 95 yards for a scoop and score, fumble return, touchdown. Duke's ensuing drive, they get inside, I believe they're inside the 20, 25. Snap to the holder for a field goal attempt. The kid just completely drops it. Not only does he drop it, then he picks it up and starts running backwards. No idea what he was doing there. So Duke has left a lot of points on the field, and gritty, gutty Haynes King's just going to keep his team in it. And Georgia Tech, you would talk about this is separation Saturday in a lot of ways. We're halfway through the season. Everybody has played at least 6 games. And there's still so many question marks. And I think one of the prevailing themes, if you listen to the national talking heads in college football, and I agree with them, is how many elite teams are there? Is Ohio State elite? If you want to call them elite, okay, check them.
Knocked one out last night.
But again, that's where I was going. Everybody, if I'd asked this question 24 hours ago, Nick, you'd have said, well, we know Ohio State and Miami are elite. Well, Miami goes out last night and loses at home as a 13.5-point favorite to Louisville, who had just coughed the game away against Virginia, and now the ACC's got a real headache.
Yeah, and if Duke beats Georgia Tech, it gets Duke's in the driver's seat in the ACC.
Yes, because they are 4-2 overall, but those 2 losses are out of conference.
Yep.
So the Blue Devils become very, very active in the ACC title race. And then, if Washington is able to pull this out in Ann Arbor, the Big Ten, the top of the Big Ten becomes pretty jumbled once you get past Ohio State, Indiana. Now, there are a couple of matchups remaining that I think will provide more separation in that league. But, Nebraska was getting a lot of love. They go on the road and they lose to Minnesota, and they looked terrible.
Yep.
Terrible. And I'm sitting there going, if you're Penn State, how is Matt Rule attractive right now? What about that? Is it just because he played there?
Yeah, that was my thought too. I got home and got to see the very end of that game, and I was like, man, this is the guy they want to take over at Penn State. I don't know about that.
Some text coming in the YouTube chat. Excuse me, and I do like this one. Tommy Moffitt has changed this program. We play 4 quarters now. I'm excited about the second half of this season. Hey, we could be looking at a Tommy Moffitt game. I said both lines of scrimmage, Nick. Who has a greater impact on the line of scrimmage and the culture and the power and the strength that they play with and the tenacity than the strength coach?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm hoping that we get a Tommy Moffitt banging the chair in the middle of the locker room or at the 50-yard line and slapping an Arkansas pig decal on it as another logo in the list of, I guess, contributing or combining logos, growing logos that are on that chair that A&M has run through. This is a mentality game. This is a line of scrimmage game for me. And we will see how this A&M team, again, on the road, little adversity with terms of kickoff time. You have your schedule. You wake up at a certain time, breakfast, treatment, all that stuff is on your itinerary. It's all planned for a 2:30 kickoff, and then you get bumped back 2 hours. So you got to sit at the hotel a little bit longer. Throws you off your routine a little bit. How does A&M handle this? I think this is a big-time culture test. I think it's a big-time people could say this is a look-ahead spot for the Aggies with LSU on the road next week in Death Valley at night. How does A&M handle all of this stuff with everything still on the horizon to play for? Real quick, the availability reports before we go off the air here and you guys get ready and settled in with your, I guess, beveraginos of choice to get yourself ready for A&M and Arkansas. There's nothing new other than Bryce Anderson being out. I actually saw Bryce Anderson last night in Southeast Texas. His younger brother plays for Beaumont or Westbrook's, a freshman that starts at receiver. Already got an offer for the Aggies, and he wasn't traveling, so he was back home. And I saw Bryce Anderson last night. I think just what happened was he came back, played a little bit last week, and just still didn't feel right. And you know, with this stuff, Nick, the concussions, they don't mess with brain injuries.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was
better safe than sorry.
Yeah, no sense in that. And then we knew that Le'Veon was going to be out for a little bit. I don't think on the Arkansas side that any of these names are new.
They're not.
Yeah, these have been kind of their consistency. They're all listed as out. And so these kids have been on the injury list for quite some time. So the Pigs coming in relatively healthy. The Aggies down a big bullet in Le'Veon Moss. But the stable, as Trooper Taylor likes to call it, we'll see if they can pick up the slack, and I'm confident that they do. Nick, real quick before we go off, you got a score prediction? What are you feeling here?
Yeah, I said yesterday on the show, I think I don't remember my exact score, but I think I went at A&M 38, Arkansas 21.
Okay, so you're a little bit more confident than I am. I'm more of like a 31-21, but I'm hoping that that's a 31-14 game and Arkansas scores late to make it feel that way, and I hope it's not 24-21 with A&M's got the ball with 3 minutes. Again, if you look ahead at LSU, at Missouri, it sure would be nice to have an afternoon, evening where we get to put our feet up and enjoy comfortably, the last 15, the last 25 minutes of football with nothing to worry about. So we'll see how it goes. I'd lean the other way because of what this game is. The Aggies and Razorbacks, a history of nail biters. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the Aggies can battle the elements and the Hogs in Fayetteville tonight. Thanks for tuning in to the TexAgs Tailgate presented by Duck Camp.